Welcome to Martin Survival. Today I'm going to show you a few different kit modifications you can make to increase your chances of survival here in the Mojave Desert. So stay with me and we'll be back shortly. Alright, so welcome back to Martin Survival. Now, I want to go over this kit and I want to explain exactly how I modify my kit to increase my chances of survival if I do get lost, because I am an outdoor enthusiast and I do like to hike and camp all throughout this Morongo Basin as far as Arizona. So what I do when I pack a kit, I pack my kit according to my area's needs. And a lot of folks will ask me, well, you know, do I recommend this pre-made survival kit? Do I recommend this survival kit? And I always tell them the same thing. You are your best survival kit. You know your area's needs and you must accommodate towards your area's needs. And of course, in the desert, one of the biggest threats is water. And I'm going to show you what I do to take care of the water situation in just a second here. So here I have my backpack. This is not my scouting pack. This is my camping pack. I will take this when I go camping or hiking. This has a lot of the same things my scouting pack has, but it has more items that I can use as shelter, a little bit more water filtration devices, different cordages and whatnot. So I can pack a lot more in this kit than my Duluth scouting pack. Now my scouting pack will be something when I just go on a quick mile hike or something like that, I can just throw on my shoulders and I can go. Now, when it comes to survival, a lot of folks, when they finally realize they're in a survival situation and it's for real, it takes them about 22 hours to realize that their life is now at risk and they're not watching a TV show. So, right here, I'll get into my kit and how I modified my kit. And a lot of this stuff, well, actually a few of these items do come from Cody Lundeen. Cody Lundeen is from Arizona. He is in a very dry climate and he's one of the best out there. And a lot of the stuff that he recommends absolutely makes sense according to the desert and its needs. So he does the same thing I do. He accommodates towards the desert and he builds his kit from there. Now, there are some things that I carry a little bit different from him, and that's okay. It's really what you prefer, how it works for you, and once again, what your area prefers. So he lives a little bit higher up. I live farther down into the Mojave Desert. It is a little bit more dry out here, so I got to pack towards this area. And I'll first of all go over my water canteens. I carry a Nalgene bottle. This is 32 ounces. Okay, this is an excellent bottle to carry. I also carry iodine and chlorine in my backpack so I can disinfect water that way. It's going to be much easier adding a few drops of iodine or chlorine to this plastic water bottle compared to building a fire and disinfecting water. That would be my last resort. Using this would be my first resort because it's going to save calories and hydration as well. So that's 32 ounces of water. Every single water bottle that I carry or canteen is full at all times with water. A lot of folks will pack it full of gear, and in the desert, that's a huge mistake. You pack it full of water. Dehydration is a huge threat out here. Then I have a huge 64-ounce canteen. I can cook, I can disinfect water in this, but the biggest advantage to this canteen is it holds tremendous amounts of water. This is the largest canteen that I have found, and this is huge in the desert. When you find water in the Mojave Desert, you have to take advantage of it. That water will not be there for another hour or two. There's lots of animals that are facing the same problems as we are, and that's dehydration. They will get to that water. So when you find water, you take advantage of it and you store as much as possible. So a 64-ounce canteen in the Mojave Desert is absolutely a must for me. And I'll get into the modifications I made with these two water bottles and canteens in just a second. Then I have my Mora knife. This knife is 1/8 of an inch thick, so I can baton small pieces of wood. I can cut pieces of wood. This is a great little slicing knife. Along with my knife, I also carry 2 saws. I keep a large Baco Laplander saw, and I also keep my Swiss Army saw. One of them is to process huge pieces of wood such as juniper or pine or something like that that is going to help me tremendously with fire and shelter building. My smaller saw is for traps and whittling and small chores such as that. And I do have a modification to this as well. The next thing I have is bright orange duct tape. Along with this bright orange duct tape, I keep bright orange paracord. And folks, I have been going through kits for the past, I don't know, 5-6 years now, and you know, building them and figuring out what is best and what works in this area. And I have used brown paracord. The best cordage to use is bright colored paracord. That brown and green will blend in with the desert environment. So I want to use something that is bright and it has contrast. So if I am in an emergency situation, or I'm living off of the land as a matter of fact, if I lose that paracord, I can find it because it is going to contrast against the earth. That's what you want. You want something that's bright, and it's also going to help me with rescue if I am in an emergency situation. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go over the modifications that I have done to not only my backpack, but the items you see displayed on this rock. So the first thing I'll go over is my backpack modification. As you can see here, I have 550 cord weaved on the top strap. This offers me cordage at hand. I have the bright contrast against the earth. And then I also have something that I can hang for a little bit more durability to get my pack off the ground. So if I find a juniper limb, a cottonwood limb, or a pine limb, I can just hang that on top of one of the split branches. And like I said, this will get off the ground. I also did the same thing with the zipper pulls here. I have bright orange contrast, I have durability, and rope at hand if I'm in an emergency situation. So moving on to my containers, I have my Nalgene bottle and of course my large 64-ounce canteen. And I'll go over my Nalgene bottle first. You can see what I've done here. I took a piece of 550 cord and I laid it against the side of this Nalgene bottle and wrapped it around with bright orange duct tape on the top and then black Gorilla Tape on the bottom. This Gorilla Tape I can shred up and I can use for fire if I have a ferro rod at hand, but the main reasoning behind this is if I find water in a crack or crevice, I'm not going to start traveling down into that because of the risk of an injury. These granite boulders can get huge, so it's just not worth it. If I'm in an emergency situation and I absolutely have to have that water, I can string up yucca or nettle cordage and I can lure this container down into that crevice and pull water out and start treating it. So I think this is a great idea, and not only that, I have duct tape at hand. I can use as a makeshift cordage, of course. I can use it for a repair or even to seal a wound if I'm hurt out in the field. Now moving on to the 64-ounce canteen, as you can see here. What I've done is I took tan 550 cord and once again I weaved it on the top and melted the two ends together. I use this for a sling, and there's a lot of good reasoning behind this. Number one, I can kind of string up the same rig as I have here if I need water and I find it in a crack or crevice, and I can lure this big guy into that crevice and start disinfecting water. But since I keep this full of water at all times, whether I'm scouting in the field, I'm just on a quick day trip, or I'm on a camping trip, I will use this as a body sling. Number one, this tells me there is water at hand. So this is constantly telling me, look, I need to stay hydrated out here. I cannot risk the threats of dehydration out in the Mojave Desert. And not only that, I also have quite a bit of rope at hand. As you can see, this is quite large and it reaches about down to my side hip. And last is my knife. So this knife is quite interesting, and how I have this is, of course, I have my cutting tool, I have this as a neck knife, so I just throw it around my neck. But I also have duct tape wrapped around a Bic lighter. So this offers me not only my cutting tool, it offers me duct tape, which I can repair, say a tarp or something if it gets ripped, an emergency space blanket. I can use this to seal a wound, and I can also use it as a makeshift cordage. But I have fire at hand, as you can see, right on the top of this lighter. So once again, if I am in an emergency situation and I have to have fire, I am not going to struggle with the bow drill or the hand drill. I'm going to use the easiest way possible. I want to save hydration and I want to save calories. So I have the fire right on the top of this cutting tool. And this is quite an interesting idea, like I said. Now, one thing that you can do with this is actually make this watertight, and I want to show you exactly how right now. Now, if I'm in a wet environment, I need to protect this lighter, as mentioned. I want to keep this water sealed so no water can get in. So I remove my knife, setting that far to the side to where it's not going to injure us. And once again, we want to point that blade away from us in the opposite direction. So if we slip, we do not cut our arm and cut ourselves open. So what I do is I tape this to this knife. And I start off with the top. And I kind of seal it just like so. Seal it around the top. And now I can start taping that lighter around our knife. Just like this. And you can add as much tape as you need. And we just work it around. Once again, protecting that top is very, very important. So just pushing the duct tape down and keeping this watertight to where there's no holes and no moisture can leak in. We just follow the duct tape around, just like this. It's very easy, and it works excellent in the field. And once again, this is something that I would recommend for someone that lives in a wet environment. Here in the desert, we don't really have to do this, except in monsoon season. This is what I'll do in June and July, to where we get a lot of rain in the desert. I want to protect my gear at all cost. So once we have our duct tape wrapped around, we have it all sealed tight to where no water is going to leak in. I can take my tape, peel it off, seal it around, and pop my knife in. So that is another modification with this Mora knife. Alright guys, so that's just about going to wrap things up for me today. I do appreciate you joining me for this video. I'm Jeff with MartinSurvival.com, and we'll see you in the next one.